And the reason for that is because the truth is it didn't really deliver on a lot of the promises that it made. Then the next thing that happened is the thin client vendors, sort of like us, said that they had a better idea. Instead of using terminal services, they were also going to use virtualization, the same technology that we use in the server room. And so what they did is, they did the same thing that we talk about doing, which is I'm going to take the desktop operating systems and I'm going to run them in my server room. But they didn't solve this problem, the one that we solved. Instead of building a device like this that was built specifically for desktop virtualization, a device that has no CPU in it, a device that's extremely low power, a device that's extremely low cost, what they did instead is they took the thin client that they invented in 1995 and they tried to apply it to 2010 technology, virtualization. And it didn't work because they still ended up with a situation where the device that they were putting on the desk is still a stripped down PC, and it still runs an operating system, and it still runs software. And so you still have to manage it, you still have to update it. It still uses a lot of electricity. And again, just like terminal services, it defeated the purpose. And so what we did, and I will tell you that there isn't an investor in Silicon Valley who would have given us any money if we didn't solve this problem, is we eliminated 100% of the software that was on the desk. We moved all of the software into the data center and left you with a device that has no CPU in it. And this is the fundamental difference that really differentiates us from everyone else from a technology perspective. This is the technology that we built. Okay? So the question is, how did we do it, right? And I apologize, this is maybe a more technical slide. But effectively, what we did is if you look at a PC, this picture on the left here is what a PC looks like. A PC has a CPU, it has memory, it runs software. But then it has this magic thing in the middle called the system bus. And the system bus is where all the input and the output for the PC travels. And so when you plug a keyboard in, or you plug a scanner in, or a printer, or a monitor, every time the monitor gets updated, every time you press a key, every time you move a mouse, that information has to travel across the system bus. And it travels to the CPU, because the CPU is the thing that interprets the key press. The CPU is the thing that decides what gets drawn on the screen, because the CPU is the thing that's running the software. Well, what we've done is we've simply taken that system bus and we've stretched it across the network. And so now, with our technology, you can have a network with a system bus running over it. And so the peripherals that you had, the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor, the printer, the scanner, all of these things can plug in on the far side of a network and talk to a CPU that's now in the data center. And so the CPU in the data center is running this operating system, it's running the drivers for these peripherals, it's running all of the applications, and whatever you do is going back and forth over the network. So you have the benefits of centralization, but you have the benefits of having I/O available where the user sits. And this was the problem with thin clients, is the thin clients split things up so that they had a PC on one side trying to service the I/O locally, the input-output locally, and they had a computer in the data center trying to run the applications. And the two just weren't talking to each other properly because they did it the wrong way. But doing it at the system bus level, which is what we've done, means that you have true remote I/O. And when you plug a USB device into the back of a Pano, Windows running in the data center says, someone just plugged the USB device into my USB port. Windows has no idea that the USB port is sitting thousands of feet away or miles away. And it will go and load the standard drivers for that USB device, and the USB device will work exactly how you expect it to work. So if it's a scanner, if it's a printer, if it's a cash drawer in a point of sale application, if it's a foot pedal, we have all sorts of devices that people plug in, and they just work the way you'd expect them to from the beginning. No special energy from your part in IT. So the question is, again, why not a thin client? Thin clients require management. They require administration work from you, which means that the amount of work that you have to do with thin clients compared to PCs has effectively doubled. In our environment, that's not the case. The second reason is thin clients were invented for terminal services. Terminal services is a technology that was invented in 1995. They were not invented for use with virtual desktops, which is what we do, which is the right way of doing it. Terminal services have a whole bunch of limitations, which I won't get into, but it really highlights why you've never seen more than a couple of % penetration into the business PC market with terminal services. You're limited in the types of applications you can run. You don't have the partitioning and the isolation that I talked about. A single user can bring the server down and affect 200, 300 users at once, right? All of these problems were for terminal services. Thin clients were invented to work with terminal services. They were not invented to work with virtualization. Thin clients are obviously expensive and they're complex. Right? And if any of you have ever worked with thin clients, what you'll realize is you're paying for 2 PCs and you're having to build an environment where 2 PCs are doing the job of one. And anytime you have to have 2 things doing the job of one thing, you end up with a more complex environment. Zero clients, what we have done, are the future. They're flexible, they're secure, and best of all, they're affordable. So I haven't talked too much about some of the benefits of the virtual desktop, zero client computing that we've invented. But really one of the biggest ones is security. When you have 100% of your data running in the data center and you have a device that has no information on it, if this device gets stolen, then there's no information that went with it. Stealing this device is kind of like stealing a monitor or stealing excuse me, the cable that goes into a monitor. There's no information available on it. And so from a security perspective, that's great. From another perspective, you know, unlike a PC, you only have USB ports on here. And because we're responsible for all of the data that goes through those USB ports, we actually give you control over those ports. And so you can lock down these ports. So for example, a user cannot come up to a Pano device and plug in a hard drive and start copying files to the hard drive. You can say users aren't allowed to plug in printers, so they can't print sensitive information and take it with them. We control all of the flow of all of the data in and out of your data center because it all runs to this device. And we control it. We've written the drivers that light up this device, and so we have all that control. So from a security perspective, you have all of that. There is a lot of regulation that has now come up, especially if you're in the medical field or you're in the financial services field. This regulation is really tying your hands in terms of what you're able to do. And a technology like this is fully compliant with all of these new rules that help you. For example, with patient records, there's a lot of sensitivity around patient record information because of privacy. Well, with a device like this, the patient records never leave your data center. And so all of the rules that tell you how you have to treat the data when it's sitting on a PC no longer apply because the data never left the data center in the first place. And so this is a great solution for that kind of stuff. The other thing we have is we have a solution called Pano Remote, which I'm going to tell you about. It's a remote access solution. It's a very small device that you can take home and securely access your desktop from home and also not have the data leave your data center. Excuse me. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the benefit of the zero client in terms of what we call green, or we call how friendly it is to the environment, and in terms of how resilient the device is. So you have a small device over here, which is made out of solid metal on the outside. And what we've seen a lot of our customers do is put this in places where they normally could not put a PC. The device uses a very, very small amount of energy, of power. So you can run it in places that are hot environments. You can run it in places where you don't necessarily want to use a lot of electricity either because you're trying to save a lot of power or because you're running it on batteries. We have some clients who have gone to this technology simply because they're in an area where they get a lot of hurricanes, they get a lot of power outages. And so they have to run their entire desktop environment off battery backup when they lose power. And with a device like this that uses 3 or 4 watts of power, a battery backup system can run them for 8 hours as opposed to with a PC when they were only able to go for half an hour, right? And so there's a lot of benefits in terms of having a low power device like this, and a device that you can put in environments that are very harsh. We have people who run these on forklifts. We have people who run them in factories. We have people who run them in environments where PCs do not normally survive for a long period of time. If you take this to a desert in a war zone, and it's being, with a PC you have sand going through the fans and all of these things, and it's breaking, right? And the PC lifespan is 9 months or 12 months. With a device like this, you simply don't have a problem. There's no fans, there's no moving parts. You can put it anywhere and it will survive. But really, I guess, the most important benefit, because it always comes down to money, is this device will save you money. You will save money because you're not going to be buying as many expensive PCs. You will save money because you're not going to be taking all of your IT staff and having them waste their time on PC management. Every time one of your IT people has to go out to someone's desk and fix a PC that has a failed power supply or a failed fan or something like that, what he's doing is he is not spending his time on something more important. And that thing that's more important could be putting together your disaster recovery plan. It could be making sure that your backups are actually working. It could be upgrading your database, which would ultimately save you money because the newer databases are more efficient than the old ones. All of these things are things that you should be doing in your IT organization, but you're not because you're too busy spending the vast majority of your energy on your least important assets, which are your PCs. And what you need to do is stop spending all of your energy on the least important assets and take that energy and redirect it to your most important assets, which are your servers, your databases, your server-based applications, your file servers. These are the things where all of your valuable information lives, and that's where you need to put your energy, and not waste money and energy on the PC. So I've talked a lot about the benefits of the Zero client and a lot about the benefits of virtual desktops. But the reality is I will tell you that this is not the only thing we invented. It's not the only thing we built. Because I knew that if I came to you and I gave you this device, you would look at it and say, it's pretty, but what do I do with it? And so what we did is we built a complete solution. So when you come to us, it's one vendor where you get everything that you need. And so we have management systems that run in your server that oversee your entire deployment of Pano Logic Zero clients. And so if you have 500 Zero clients deployed in a factory, you have one place where you can log in and you can see the status of all 500 of those Zero clients. And you can set up all the policies that you want right there. So you can set up policies, for example, that say that when users in the accounting department log in, they get virtual machines that have the accounting software installed in it. And when people in the manufacturing environment log in, they get virtual machines with the manufacturing software installed in it. And it's all in one central place. The virtual machines are created automatically by our systems. They're managed by our systems. And so a lot of the things that you were doing manually before go away. To give you a simple example, we had a call center, and in this call center, he had to onboard 250 new employees in 1 week. And he told us that before he bought our system, it was impossible. Because to onboard 250 new employees in 1 week meant that he was going to have to take 250 physical PCs, and on every one of these PCs, load the operating system, load the drivers, go set it up, and go and configure it. But with our system, there was no energy involved, no effort involved, because our management system did all of this automatically. Our management system simply had a policy that said, when a call center agent tries to log into the system for the very first time, automatically create a new virtual machine for that user. And so they'd sit down and log in, and they get a window that would pop up and say, please wait 3 minutes. And within 3 minutes, we would create a virtual machine. Within that virtual machine, we would load Windows XP. We would load the applications for the call center, and then the user would log in. And the administrator didn't have to do anything. The only thing he did was sit and watch our management system. And on our dashboard, every time a new user logged in, he could see a new virtual machine being added automatically. And for him, his job became an oversight role. Let me just sit here and make sure that nothing goes wrong. But in terms of doing actual work, he didn't have to do actual work. And so he spent his energy doing more important things. So just to tell you a little bit more about this administration system. The first thing that we focused on was making the administration process as easy as possible. What we literally did during the development process is we would bring in IT managers and we would watch them install the system, configure the system, create new virtual machines for users. And we'd sit there watching them because we wanted to make sure that it was easy as possible. We wanted to make sure that you could do as much of the work as you could without having to read the manual. We would time them, right? And our goal was less than 60 minutes. That within 60 minutes you can take our system, install it, and be up and running with the first desktops without having to spend days reading manuals or days getting trained in training centers and taking tests and things like that. And what we found is, our system as it is today, it's about a 30 to 60 minute process to install it. It's very, very fast. It's very, very easy. We've kept the user interface very, very simple. And it's all because we know that this is new technology and we don't want you to have to retrain all of your IT staff on a system like this. It should just be obvious. And so when you guys go out, or when your IT staff go out and they buy a new iPod or a new iPhone, they don't have to train themselves. And we believe that when you use a system like this, a virtualization desktop system like this, you also shouldn't have to go through a lot of training. The second thing is the management is 100% centralized. And so our entire management system is based on a web-based console. So in order to manage it, literally what you do is you open up a web browser, Internet Explorer, Firefox, or Chrome, and you go to a website, a central website, where our entire management system is. And so from this one place, you can create new policies, you can create desktops, you can remove desktops, you can disable users' access, you can see the status of all the zero-client Pano devices in your environment. And it's all from one web page. Right? And this was very, very important to us because really a lot of the benefits that we're talking about here comes from centralization. And so that was our primary goal. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the Pano remote technology. I mentioned this earlier. What we have is a little USB stick. It's very, very small. It's also made out of solid metal. And the idea is you can give it to your users, or you can give it to your managers, or you can give it to your boss. And these guys can go home and plug this Pano remote key into any PC. They can plug it into their laptop at home. They can plug it into a PC at an internet cafe. And from there, they can get secure access to their virtual machine. So remember what we did when we eliminated the PC is we took the desktop operating system that they were running. Thank you. And this is what it looks like. And we have a couple around the room. If you want to see them, just make sure you come and find one. And so remember what we did with centralization is we eliminated the PC and we took your desktop operating system, Windows XP or Windows 7, and we moved that into the server room. Well, now that it's in the server room, there's no restriction that you can only get to that from a Pano device, right? From this device. Yes, you can do it from this device, but you can also get to it from any PC, as long as you have one of these. And the purpose of this stick is security. When you use this on a PC, the connection into your data center where your desktop is running is secure. We use HTTPS encryption running on port 443. That encryption is the same type of encryption that many banks use for online banking. It's the same thing that's used for credit card transactions. And by using this key, we're able to effectively allow your users to access their desktop, but get that level of security on their desktop. And so the only thing that's leaving your data center are pictures of the screen, not the actual data. And so your data is secure, sitting securely in your centralized data center. So just in summary, what is our vision at Pano Logic, right? The first thing is what I call extreme centralization. It is to take 100% of your software and centralize it. Because if you have software that is outside your data center, you're wasting energy managing it. By moving it into the data center, it's more secure, it's more flexible, because in a virtualized environment, you can create virtual machines on demand, you can delete them on demand, you can give a user a memory upgrade simply by changing a value. And so today when a user comes to you and says, I only have 1 gigabyte of memory and I need 2, you have to go to their PC, physically open it, physically put more memory in it. But in a virtualized environment, you log into a system and you change the number 1 to the number 2, you click apply, and it's done. They reboot their machine, and 10 minutes later, they have 2 gigabytes of memory, right? It's more flexible. Centralization is where you really win from a security perspective. It's where you really win from a flexibility perspective. It's how you ultimately save money. The second one was we had to make our product, the second piece of our vision, is we had to make our product simple, and we had to make it complete. If we made it too complex, no one would buy it. If you made it so that it wasn't complete, so that you had to go buy a piece from us, and a piece from this vendor, and a piece from that vendor, no one was going to do it. And so we knew that this technology was transformational. It was going to change the world forever. It was going to change the way people did PCs forever. But we had to make it easy for people, and that's why we did this. And finally, we knew that we had to give the end user what they were used to. And so in a turbo services environment,